live with Austin Linney. As you can see, I'm sitting in the second floor of the temple, and Austin's swimming in the sea because he's in a really hot place.
It's like 50 where I'm at, so we're good. We escaped. We have a new rule now. When it gets to June, we just keep going north. And so if Canada would get their damn crap together, my rule would be to spend every spring in Banff, but we'll see when they open the borders again.
Well, so when I was in university, I just like I had this really bad joke that was like, why would I ever move to the States? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, Canada, Southwestern Ontario is going to be the new Florida in 10 years because of global warming, right? I mean, that's kind of come true, and I kind of feel bad for making that joke all those years. Yeah.
Dude, my stepmom and stepdad are in Palm Springs, not by choice, because they got sick and they're there for another week. And they sent me a message yesterday. Their card was 122 degrees inside. I'm like, nope, sorry, not happening. No. It's a dry heat. Yeah, no. It's still retroactively hot.
So you I know you've traveled a lot. You've been all over the place. But like are you okay with winter? Like do you like the jungle? Like what's your preferred climate? Like if you could be anywhere, 364 days a year, where would you be? I know there's 365 days a year, but you want snow for at least one day, right?
100%. I mind the snow. I don't mind the heat. Like I lived it for years, so it's a really weird climate I'm looking for. It's that feeling of that crispness in the air with like less humidity. Like here's the thing, I feel like I can literally withstand any weather, but the humidity on top of the weather is too much. Like that is like, it's like sticking to your clothes. Like, so I would prefer, like, I like a good 55 in the morning to a 73 and an 80 in the afternoon. Like that's like the perfect, like, here's a weird, I'm about to go down a rabbit hole. I enjoy the beach, but I don't like the beach. Okay. And let me explain. I enjoy how people behave at the beach. When you're at the beach towns, they're all happy. They're at the beach. They're hanging out, but I don't love the sand everywhere. Like I grew up like a rivers and lakes kind of guy. So I like a place that has the mountains and the beach. That's kind of like because the wind's always blowing. So like where we're at right now, we're on a river, but we're a mile away from the beach, and then there's mountains behind us. So it's probably like the perfect kind of scenario, right? Like Upper Oregon, North. What I don't do is the rain. I need the sun. I can't do the rain forever. That's not my bag. But
what's your tolerance for like swimming in cold water? Like at what temperature are you like, okay, no, when I look down, I can't see myself anymore, so I'm not going in that water. Too cold, right? Like
no, I'm good to go. I like a good cold plunge. So we were cold plunging in the lake in Tahoe. Rivers, lakes, oceans, I don't care. I had a rule, true story. This is really odd. I don't know how much I can, it doesn't matter. Okay. So when I got divorced, and I was kind of finding myself, and I got laid off. I was kind of lost. My buddy is a shaman out of California, and he was like, "Hey, I know you never done this before, but like, come and hang out with me." And I didn't ask any questions, and I just went to California. And we were in Malibu, and I did I did an LSD guided trip. And one of the things that came up for me with his friends was I was acting like a stuck-up grandpa. Like I'm like never happy, not experiencing the wonders of life, like a child, And at the end of our ceremony, we were on the beach in Malibu. It was during COVID. There was nobody there. It was 60 degrees. It was the quintessential movie scenario. The birds are chirping, the sun's going down. And his friend said to me, if you truly want to live in your life, you have to jump. If you truly want to do what you have to do, you have to jump. And that's a metaphor for jumping in the fucking ocean right now. And I was like, well, I don't have a bathing suit. And she's like, I don't care. And so I jumped down, and I jumped in the water. And when that cold water hit my face, I swear to God, it was like I was reborn. Like I was like this new me. And I promised myself that whenever I saw water, I would jump in moving forward. And so that's what I do. When I see a body of water, I jump in.
And it's come visit me in Toronto in Christmas. I want to see that.
Done.
No, I mean, yeah, like that's cool. I it's funny that you were acting like your grandpa, because sometimes I feel like I was acting like your grandpa, and like I get a little bit politically incorrect at times, let's say, and more so. Honestly, this is really bad, but like more so with my parents than anyone else, just because I'd like to push people's buttons, and their buttons are easy to push, and like we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And even though I'm trying to be nice, it gets to the point where like I like to push buttons. So I had a bit of a tiff with them the other day, which was okay, right? But they're probably okay. I was worried about it. I felt bad about it the next day. But I told my mate, and he's like, I can't believe you said that, because I said some really bad Australian words. It's just like not at them, but like to them, and it was kind of funny. I was just pressing boundaries, really. And my friend's like, yeah, like I mean, you're gonna stay with your parents for like a little bit, right? Like so my kids can get to know the grandma and grandpa. That's the whole intent. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can't do it, man. He's like, I like 72 hours, right? Like a window that I can live with my parents. But he's like I'm surprised you can do it. I said, well, how so? He's like, well, you're not the most, how do I phrase this? You're not the most, bendable person. You're kind of stuck in your ways, right? Like you're not the type of person that changes their whims. And I'm just like, oh man, what have I gotten myself into, right? But like, I mean, like he's right. Like I don't bend my fashion, right? Like I'm in fashion every 6.5 years, because that's when my fashion style comes back, right?
Yeah. Well, and I also think that you're an examiner of human behavior. I think that's about your innate personality. And so what you're asking of them by poking the bear is you're saying, are they willing to change? What's their viewpoint? Like, and so like, I have a little bit of that in me too. And so a lot of times, I'll give you an example, and I could bring him on the show. He would say the exact same thing. I had a client, wanted to change his job, wanted to start his own business, and was getting scared because he has 3 kids. And we're like 2 months in, he left his job and some money wasn't coming right. And I just basically said, you know what would be amazing? I said, it would be awesome when you have to walk in your office and ask for your old boss your job back. I was like, and then their kids won't have their father anymore because he's at the office all day. And he was like, you motherfucker. And he was like, you know what? He's like, kiss my, and he like saved this text message. And since then he's gone on to make like $500,000 and they're living the best life. And I'm like, sometimes people just need that good swift kick in the, you know what?
That brings up another point, right? Like I got to get rid of my kids. Like I'm done. I gotta get rid of them, right? Like I just they gotta go. All right. And
they are a liability.
I don't mean that I don't want to see them or I don't want to hang out with them. But like, so that was a little bit of a jump. But to go back, I saw this kind of meme, I guess. It was traffic. What I can only presume was LA. It looked similar to LA traffic at rush hour, just lines of cars, concrete, jungle. On the ocean side, and it said something like, stop pretending that working from home remotely is a bunch of guys sitting around in their pajamas, right? Like let's look at this. If you're working remotely from home, it means you have way less travel time and you have way more time with your family and friends, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I actually need to get rid of my kids for 6 to 8 hours a day, or else I don't get anything done. That's the problem. Right?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I explained, my buddy, I'm not making up numbers. This is for real. So my buddy manages $5 billion for University of Texas. The whole fund's $50 billion. And he's been working from home for the last year. And he's like, don't get me wrong, it's really great. But he's like, when I'm trying to execute a $350 million trade and my 1-year-old is around my ankles, he's like, it's a little distracting. And I'm like, yeah, I can only imagine like you're trying to move over like 400 mil and stuff, and like the kid like snaps your toe, and you're like, okay, like maybe did get out of daddy's office. And it's like, and then my other buddy approves like huge loans for like Walmart and everything through Chase Bank, and he's like, I'm literally like yelling at my person Ross, who's doing the analyst on this big deal that we're trying to get to push across the finish line. And then I walk out of the door up the upper office, and like literally my kids are like right in front of me, and I've just been tense for 8 hours. It used to be where you had that ride home with the music, to kind of like decompress. But like a lot of guys I talk to, before they enter the room with their family or something, they'll turn on some music to kind of signal the shift in their personality. And, kind of create those rituals. That's what I teach my clients. I was talking about this yesterday with a client. Like, create rituals around things that you do. Like, I have a song that if I'm ever not myself, like, it reminds me of like what I believe in. And it's like basically about travel and stuff. And so I always listen to that like first thing in the morning. And it kind of reminds me like exactly what I believe about life, to understand that like in the last 2 weeks, we've launched 7 businesses and I've hired 7 staff, and we're like, and $11 million worth of real estate under contract, 2 hotels. It's been crazy, but like as much as I could stress about it, which we're not really stressed, but I chose those things. Right. And so like reminding myself that like you wanted this because you wanted to create jobs and impact. Like, so when the stakes are high and you need 60 grand for this and you need this and you got to pay this, like this is what you decided to do. Because you could easily just coach and that would make you plenty of money and you'd work like 2 days a week. But that's not a fulfilled life for me because I want it all. And so, being able to, which I think is going to be, I'm super excited. One of the most amazing experiences of my life for the foreseeable future, because I see you as the guy, like being able to birth a book, even if it takes us 5 years, I don't care. Like it's still, I always want to document the journey because I want to teach others how to do it. And I'm really excited about just sharing. That's why these podcasts are important. My new clients I signed yesterday, they heard me on another podcast and they said they were crying. And like, they met me and like, they're like, you're real. And you actually like say what you say and you're going to help us. And now we're business partners. And that all happened in 5 days. And they're like, she's like, I don't even know what to say, but like, we've been looking for you for like 2 years and we finally found you. And I don't know how you came into our life. And like, man, I mean, there's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing better than that to understand that I take on the responsibility of their kids and their legacy just as much as it is mine as well too.
Yeah, I cracked the cover of that thing that you sent me. I got a few pages into it, and not so many, but I quite enjoyed it. And then I realized, okay, I need to shut this off. I need to turn this off for like at least a week because I need to be in a room without my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I need to not be thinking about. Have you
read Naval's book? Have you ever heard Naval Naraki? You ever heard of it?
Maybe not. No.
So they published a book called The Almanac of Naval. He's a very, very famous angel investor, invests in 300 plus companies, smart as hell. And it's a transcription of all of his podcasts and episodes he's done with people. And this is the way I see that, is like a lesson in life of like, I'm talking directly to you and then attaching the QR code to the podcast episode, because there's a video for every one of those things. And then kind of saying like, hey, break it up in identity, break it up in change, and like just sharing some stuff that you can give to people and say like, hey, this is a tactical thing. And I wonder if we can create like a journal with it too.
I like it. Yeah, I like the idea of it because it reminds me of so I don't think it worked for me at all. I really don't think it worked. I mean, it kind of worked, but then it didn't. Like, it worked the first time, and then I went back and Alan Carr wrote a book on how to stop smoking, and it was quite interesting. He actually died from lung cancer, but he figured out how to stop smoking. And I think the first page of the book, it said like, okay, you're here because you want to stop smoking. You're probably a smoker, so if you are, I'm not going to tell you to stop smoking. Read to the end of the book. If you're stressed out about reading this book, light one up, smoke one, right? So he told but he went through this book, a series of stories by other people on their addictions and their problems and their things, right? And he's like, he tells us one story about this guy who knows he's an addict, right? And I think you'll appreciate this because I quite like it. But, this guy, he was like, every day I'm going to quit smoking. But he knew that he wasn't going to quit smoking. So he would wake up and he couldn't do it. And then finally he said, look, I'm only going to smoke 5 cigarettes a day. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to pace myself. So I'm going to smoke my cigarettes at these times, right? And his first cigarette was, at 12 o'clock noon, right? And he said he used to wake up in the morning, at 7 a.m. And his whole first 5 hours of his day was agony because he was waiting for that cigarette. Then the next 3 hours of his day was agony because he was waiting for that cigarette. Then the next 5 hours of his day was agony. He said, it takes you 7.5 minutes to smoke a cigarette. He smoked 5 cigarettes a day, right? So he had 20 minutes of the day that he actually enjoyed, and the rest of the time was him waiting for him to enjoy his time, right? And so this was a story that he told, one of the chapters, one of the paragraphs, and the life lessons of that. So it's funny because when I was reading, the little stories that you were writing, even though I'm not even that far in, that's what I got. It's like, each story is kind of probably going to be different, but it'll have its own moral that people will be able to apply to themselves, right?
Well, 100%. And at the end of the day, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at, right? TC, funny enough, I actually don't drink coffee at all. Crazy. And well, you know what? To be honest with you, that's not fair because my fiance is getting me coffee right now because she got me addicted to the certain type of coffee. Dutch Bros is like our jam. She's like loves coffee, and they had this like cold brew with like this thing. It's really good. I do not. We tried it a year ago called Construct Your Life Coffee. And but I do want to add that into my thing. But one of the things that we've talked about for my brand that I think would be amazing is everybody wants me to create a morning app where like I would say like, hey, nobody cares, work harder, go fuck yourself, work harder today. Or like I give like an inspirational thing where you can like, it's like your alarm clock or something. So, it's funny, like my fiance was talking about it yesterday. She's like, every time people talk to you, she's like, they just get all fired up and shit. She's like, you need to like do something around that. So, yeah, I agree, TC. We need to talk about it. We need to get it done. So yeah, it's one of those things where like, here's as my life is, this next 2 years for me is like about traveling and creating. We've got hotels. We've got a lot of stuff that we're working on right now. And then once we settle in our kind of one of our houses that we'll be at, like most of the time, Texas, I'm going to build out a huge podcast studio, like almost like a theater room where I invite people that fly into my house and we do like long 3 hours, 3-hour podcast where we talk about life and everything like Joe Rogan. And then I'm going to coach teams and stuff. So that's when I'm going to start really bringing on somebody that's just going to focus on like my brand. We got like bobblehead shirts and stuff, and I want to release books. But it's funny, man. I was talking to my buddy in Minneapolis, and they bought $50 million worth of real estate in the last 2 years. And you want to know what he said that's helped him the most with getting investors invested in his properties? The book they wrote. He said we get 90% of the people that read our book called Passive Investing Made Simple, and then they reach out to us and they invest. And so he's like, that book is just that. It's just that stamp. It doesn't matter where we're going in technology. That book is just that stamp. And I really feel like I need that stamp as I start to go speak on more stages.
If you ever release it in a print copy, you should release it with that. And I'm not making a joke, but you should release it with like, I don't know, maybe your face, like the one that we always use for the cover image that's like staring at you. And like, that's the wax inken that holds the book together.
Yes, I like it. I like it. But, it's funny, right? I think that, and Corey and I talk about this a lot, right? And I just want to share this with anybody that's ever going to listen to this. Because I could talk about it in real estate. I could talk about it in crypto. We're in a very interesting time right now. I would probably get 6 calls a week. Somebody in the real estate space worried about where we're going. What should I do? Should I buy? Should I do these things? Guys, right now is the time for you to double down on your skills. Right now is the time to close your circle, build, come out of this that much stronger. Because there's always places to make strides. It's the same thing when COVID happened. I learned more than I've ever learned. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. This, in my opinion, will create one of my favorite quotes, these times create giants that you don't see for 5 years. There is an opportunity because the noise is quieter. I can get a better deal on real estate. I can get a better deal. It's easier. Guys, I've launched 7 companies in the last 10 days. It's never been easier to launch a company. And so, but needing that company to save your life is where you get tripped up. We're not in a world anymore where you can expect quick success, but if you're doing it for the right reasons, then you create a space where it doesn't really matter, right? And so the only thing we're worried about this year is making sure everybody that works for us is taken care of financially, they're safe, and then moving into next year, once everybody has money and they're safe and secure, then we'll start taking even more risk, and just understanding that, in my opinion, and this is just us, we've done the research. My business is actually better when everybody doesn't have their egos all over the place and feels like they can, fall out of a bucket and make money.
That's interesting because I'm looking at it from a little bit of a different angle, right? Like I'm not in real estate or doing that, but that's kind of where my take is too. It's like, we're in the bear, and this is the time where I'm gonna still keep doing my stuff with Uplift, but this is how we built the Uplift, right? Like, and how I built my reputation was like during the bear, right? Now, my reputation is still intact, and the company that I used to build it, well, they completely fucked me. But the nice thing about that is that the statute of limitations is 6 years in Australia, so that's going to be fun in 5 years. Let's just put it that way. I like to sit, wait, and watch and see what happens. But my plan is to kind of build my brand in a way, and this is I'm pretty good at what I do, I think, and I'm just taking more writing jobs. I'm just trying to write what I want to write for people that I believe in, right? Like I'm not trying to write the daily news coverage that goes out on the Bugle, whatever the hell they call it, right? Like I'm not trying to talk about Sam, whose cat is 105 years old and they can't figure out why. Actually, I probably would write about that because that would be fascinating if it was actually a thing, right? But I just want to write for people and do things, right? I know TC's out there. I know he's doing some really interesting things with NFTs, and that's one of the things that we just really need to do, I think, as a community. You're right, is encourage other people to get out there and excel at what they're good at, right? Because if you're not excelling at what you're good at and you're in crypto, you should probably be in the real business world because you'd probably make more fucking money. Right? That's kind of where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not enjoying your time, but you bring up so there's an interesting thing. Like somebody that we work with, they sent me this article. I haven't read it yet. It's a YouTube video, but they were talking about how fucked the world potentially is. With inflation and all of this other stuff. So I wanted to get your take because it was interesting. His take and the video that he sent was that Canada and Japan will probably be okay, actually, right? America's kind of up in the air. It's going to be. He said really what's going to happen is Europe's going to get completely and utterly screwed. Right. And he said, when it comes to commodities, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to all of these kind of things, it's going to be Europe that takes the hit. And I was kind of surprised about Japan, but they were basically saying that the Japanese Navy was what was going to save it. I've seen the Japanese Navy; it's not really that impressive.
Yeah.
apparently, it might be technologically or something like that. So. And it's funny because I'm thinking about going back home, and I understand completely why you live in an RV right now. This is probably not the reason why, but inflation in Canada is absolutely astronomically insane. It is in America too. I'm coming from a country where I can buy a 30-year-old place next to the beach on one of the most beautiful islands in the world for $50,000 to $70,000, which is crazy, right? You're never going to get that. So I don't really understand the meaning of inflation, other than the fact that when I go to the supermarket and I buy bread, it's a little bit more expensive, but that's good for me because I'm getting fat, so I stopped eating bread anyway, right?
Dude,
so
I'm paying almost $7 a gallon up here while we're visiting California in the West Coast, right? And so look, here's the deal. I knew this was coming 2 years ago So when I got divorced, I started literally cutting down all my expenses as high as I could, because I wanted to be set up for success when this was going to come. And what you're seeing is people buying shit on margin. Guys, I was a loan. I loaned money to investors. That was my job. I saw how over leveraged they were. We got to see their bank accounts, 9 hard money loans. You're doing it to yourself. Like, you're doing it to yourself. Your car payment's $1,000. This is that. You're living in a house you shouldn't live into. It's not worth it. But hear me out. But could you start that second business that brings in $1,500 a month? Could you get that one Airbnb that makes $1,000 a month? Like, all my guys, I teach them, all the young guys I coach, they live for free. They live in a duplex, the other guy pays the rent, or they live in a fourplex and the other person pays the rent, and they're living for free. That expense that you don't have, and let's call it what it is. RVing is not cheap. This is not a cheap, but it's cheaper than what I would pay if I lived in Austin. And if we change the way that we stay, which is coming next year, we could probably pay $500 to $900 a month at an RV park for the month. So you're talking about, that's a huge drop off, right? I'm not paying utilities. I'm not paying cable. My internet's, a little higher because I need special internet. But my question is very simple. Why do you need all that shit? Like, why do you need all the extra stuff? Like, one of my favorite things ever, like old money wisdom. I can't use the last one because it's derogatory, so I'll just cut out that one. But if it flies, if it flies or it floats, rent it. If it flies or it floats, rent it. You don't need these things. Like, we have one car. Like, I'm about to have to get a new RV, a bigger one, and then a new truck. Have you seen trucks these days? What they cost? This is going to cost me like $70,000.
It's ridiculous, dude. So my dream car right now, which is, like, don't make fun of me, but like, it's because I don't want an RV. Actually, like, I do at some point, but I'm not old enough to get an RV yet. But I want a Mitsubishi Delica. Now, there's these Toyota Hiaces. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but these Toyota Hiaces, dude. There's these guys that we know. We see them at the campground all the time. They're a couple, and they basically just, decked out their Hiace with a bed in it. They've got like an oven and a stove in the back of it. Like, it's not an RV. It doesn't, act like an RV, but like in Japan, having an RV is a little bit ridiculous because A, there's not really any RV parks here, and B, the roads are really thin, so actually having a big van is more cool. But like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to live in a Mitsubishi Delica. You can deck one of those things out like amazingly well, right? And again, nothing against RVs, but I don't want to buy a truck. But even if I'm gonna buy a Delica, right, like to be able to fit my family, it's ridiculously expensive in Canada. I can't believe it. Like, dude, like, the used car market in Japan is probably the best car market in the world, right? Like, I bought my car. I'm gonna have to pay like $300 to get rid of my car, right? My car, if I were to have it in North America, I would probably have to pay 10 to 15 grand to buy it. Right? Like, and like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's a good car and it's 15 years old. It's got like less than 100,000, clicks on it. It's a Mazda. It's a coupe. It's fast. It's got good pickup. Like, it's got a little bit of Oji-san smell, but that's just because, but like, if you don't know what an Oji-san is, it's an old grandpa dude. That's me, by the way. So, but like, it's just ridiculous, right? Like, and I have friends who used to buy them at the auctions and ship them over because here, everybody wants something new, right? Like, everybody wants something. Part of it is that you have to do the safety check every 2 years after the car gets to a certain age, which is how the Japanese are able to pump up their economy so well, because it's like, you do the safety check, you can sink another $1,000 or $1,500 into your car, or you can go and you can get a loan and you can buy a new one every 5 years, right? It's the same with houses, it's the same with apartments. I mean, Austin, you would either rip your hair out here, or you would love this country, with a vengeance, both of them. Because if you came over here and you looked at what was on the market in terms of used apartment or used house sales, you would be like, this is ridiculous. Wow, they've got like bathtubs that are heated. They've got like everything included. Like, what's going on? Like, it's so cheap. The problem is the resale value doesn't hold the resale value, right? So I have friends who did Airbnb here, and like when travel was good, right? Like they made a killing because they were able to buy up all these, you know, old places that nobody wanted to live in. Osaka has, I think, something like 40% of the houses or apartments in Osaka are like unrented, or there's nobody living there, and they just keep building new ones and new ones and new ones, right? So I mean, the benefit is that there's all these old places. The downfall of it is that, you know, nobody's using them and buying them. So it's going to be really bizarre for me, is what I'm saying, when I go back to Canada, right, where everybody wants a 150-year-old house because it's actually a house that won't blow over in the wind, right? Like so yeah, I mean, TC, this is interesting. Really, you only leave your house one time a month, and that, like, I mean, what are you gonna do when I come visit you? Are you gonna leave? Are we like, are we gonna be friends? Because I'm coming close to you, close to your area, and I'm not sure. Maybe I'm gonna change my mind, because after I saw this, I'm kind of thinking, if it's 40 degrees where you are in June, fuck that shit, man. Like, that's flipping. That's flipping cold, man. Yeah. There you go. See, 2 times when I come. Sweet. That's what my missus said too. This is getting weird now. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, I think, to see, right? Like, where do you think we're going to be? Where do you think so I know that, like, this is a weird question for me, right? But I think a lot of people who come to you, they do it when it's kind of already too late.
Welcome.
Like they don't do it when it's too late, but they do it because, like, you know, they didn't listen to the types of things that you said before they got in the situation where they needed you, right?
Yeah, and I also think that ultimately understanding what they think they need is two different things. And let me explain. If you were to have a group or somebody in your corner that's pushing you, whether it's good or bad, it's all positive. The reason that my company and my business partners work is because we're always pushing each other. If I know that person out there, and so my biggest issue with addiction and trouble is that we have a society predicated on treating it after you've already smacked into the wall doing 130. How do we affect change before you got? Look, you might be having a great life. It might be amazing. But you know what's the most disheartening thing in the world I had to do the other day? I had to get real truthful with somebody. They wanted to sell their business that they built for 5 years. And you know what I had to tell them? You know how much their business was worth? $0. And the business does $250,000 a year. You know why? Because they don't have any employees and they do everything themselves. What is somebody buying? So if you would have met me 5 years ago, I could have told you to build your business the right way, and you probably would have got $2 million for it. But now it's worth nothing. And so you're looking at, oh, Austin's here to save me. No, Austin's here to lead me or help me. His team's here to lead me. And so, but nobody, especially men, are so damn stubborn that they're literally, their wife has to go, you know what, dude, I'm thinking about fucking leaving you, till they're like, oh, maybe I should change my shit around. You know, because the problem that I see with most high achievers is they're making just enough money to live a great life, but they're not fulfilled. And so they're not messed up enough to change. So they just kind of keep going with the status quo. I see it just so often.
And I also think, like, that it's interesting that you said that too, because I think a lot of these people who might be in that situation might also be the ones that would say, like, yeah, like, I'm employing you, and if you can't help me, I'll go find somebody that will. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to fucking help you. So, but I wanted to ask, because you did something quite interesting. I think the last time that we talked, you had it on the bill, and I'm assuming you did it, but you took on, well, a whole cell of new clients. Essentially, you did some public speaking at a prison, actually.
Oh my goodness!
And I wanted to ask you about that experience.
Whoa,
we haven't heard about it, right?
Jimmy, this was Jimmy. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this, dude. Okay, so let me paint a picture for you. Never really. I've spoken on stage, but it was at my event, and there was like 50 people there. So we get like ushered into the jail, like inside a full fucking jail. you know, cops everywhere, the whole thing, and like they're you know they're bringing us in, and like then you walk into this area where they're all sitting there, and I mean, dude, it's like dudes that have like teardrops, you know, like it's like these dudes are like some are in there for life, no parole, you know, it's the whole thing. So the one guy speaks first, so like I kind of like he's done it like a million times, and he was an inmate. So like I'm like, okay, I'm just like, and I don't plan anything. That's not my shit. So I was like, I'm just gonna wing it. And so I get up there and I start talking about my thing, and I made him laugh. So I'm like, oh my god, like I got this room full of like surly, you know, dudes to laugh. And so I tell my story, and it went great. And then everybody speaks, and we do a question and answer. I'm not on stage, but it's a Q&A. And the leader, the guy that brought me there, is on stage. And this 32-year-old dude stands up. He's in the best shape I've ever seen in my life. He's like, listen, I've been in for 16 years. I do yoga every day. I eat great. He's like, I read 5 books a month. I'm in here with life without parole. What's the point? And I'm sitting there going, well, this just spiked up to about 35. And so I'm sitting there going, thank God I'm not the one on stage. But then I started thinking like, okay, I think I know where he's going to go. And so like he talks him through, and the guy's like, well, I'll never have a family. And so like, it really like, I mean, it like elevated the thing. And then like some guys stood up, and I answered some questions. And what's wild is 3 of those guys stood up, and they had $30 to $60 million companies. And they threw it away by running guns or doing drugs. And they had forgiven the act of it. But you know what they didn't forgive? They still had shame that they let down every one of their coworkers and the people that worked for them. And they couldn't get over that. But I'll tell you what happened the next day. So then I go to the event and I speak again. And something hit me. Those people were not in prison. And I said this to them. I said, listen, you're sitting here and you're scared to do the thing. You're watching Netflix, you're distracted, whatever it is. I said, you need to respect. By the way, the guy running the camera was a prisoner who came out and run the camera. He said, those guys that were in that prison, they've had to actually look at themselves in the mirror. They don't have the distractions. They literally have to deal with what they did, and they have to make peace with it. I said, they are living more truthful lives than you are. And that is a lesson that is literally stuck with me. And I'm going to mentor like 2 of them when they get out in the next 6 months. And they were like crying. These are like gang members. And he's like, why? And like, I realized that those people, and I don't condone what they did or whatever they didn't do, but they were literally living a more truthful, impactful life by knowing that they had faced their demons than 90% of the people I see on the outside. Is so powerful. Stuck with me for the rest of my life.
I mean, I guess when you wake up every day and you're incarcerated, you can't really forget about it. And if you're looking around at the surroundings that you're in, I can only imagine, you know, that really only 2 options come to mind, right? And one of them probably is like, once I get out of here, I don't want to come back. Like that's, I mean, we all kind of chuckle and laugh at that, you know, joke in the Shawshank Redemption, you know, where the guy says, you know, I don't know how to live outside the world, right? You know, I don't know how to do that, but it's a very different thing. And I think that you're right. It's interesting because I don't know anyone really I don't know very many people. I do know people, but I don't know very many people in this real world who actually take responsibility for their own actions. And it's really sad actually when you think about it, you know. Everything is somebody else's fault, right? Like everything isn't. And so if these guys are in there and they're looking at their lives, you know, through, you know, a magnifying glass every single day, and they're remorseful about letting other people down, and they're wanting to improve, then that's pretty powerful, man. Like what they can become coming out of that is going to be really interesting to see, right? Like I hope I'm never in that situation. Like I don't want to be there, but I can see what you're saying, right? Like it would force you to take out a whole new perspective on life, right?
Yeah, and I think and what was wild, right? The guy, he's never had a job ever. He's like 39. He was like number 2 in the gang, and he says, "You know what my specialty was in the gang?" He goes, "Spotting new talent for the gang for the gang." And I said, "You know what my specialty is in business? Spotting talent." And it clicked for him. He was like, "Oh shit." He's like, "Oh my God." Like, and so like what I'm trying to get across is like, what I really don't want this to go down a woo-woo channel, like but my fiance has imparted a lot in me. There's lessons in everything. And you have an opportunity, whether what they did or didn't do for 30 years, 20 years, same as me, 20 years drinking. Could I have easily stayed that person? Of course. But look how many lives that I'm going to impact because I've decided to change. Look how many lives didn't get saved. I'll share an even harder story for me. And I still haven't made peace with this one. And it's ongoing. It just happened 7 days ago, and it's really affected me, and it will affect me for the foreseeable future. I have a friend, a really good friend, a prominent real estate guy, one of the best in the business. Left a family event the other night at 11 o'clock, driving through Beverly Hills, and was obviously drunk and wrecked his car. And the cops came on the scene, got him out and his 3 kids, but his wife died in the car. And they have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And all I told him, he sat in prison for like 7 days. He's out right now, waiting trial. But I'm thinking to myself, like, that dude makes like $5 million a year. And like one decision, one choice changed everything. And now he's got to spend the next 60 years trying to find out what that reason was for. I don't wish what he's going through on anybody, but that I literally can't stop thinking about that one decision shaped so many people's lives. And, you know, we have to make sure that we're understanding that we can't just be lippid about life and just blasé. And I'm not trying to take it to this monotone tone, but it's like those moments are like really shaping me because I think about my own, you know, stuff. And I'm like, man, that could have been me, like so easily. And it's just one of those moments that really makes you wake up, somebody that close to you, you know? And he's got a whole team and all that stuff like that. And it's just like, damn. So it's just one of those things, man. You know, it's like we have a life to lead, and we have a duty to live to our highest and best version. That's all I'm saying. I can't hear you.
Oh, wow. No wonder the show's been going so smoothly. I haven't been talking. Sorry. Yeah, like it's funny, right? Like I it was resonating with that. You know, I was in the hospital, you know, I broke my collarbone, and my missus called me the night before the surgery, and she's like, "I don't know why you're upset. You're fine. You're not gonna die. They're just gonna cut your collarbone up and they stitch it up." And I mean, it's not the fact that like I broke my collarbone. It's not the fact that I'm upset or worried that I had surgery. It's actually reflecting on the fact that, like, you know, if I would have fallen the other way, I would have, you know, fallen 11 floors and I would be dead, right? Like leaving the kids behind, right? Like for the next 3 days, I spent, you know, writing out and figuring out how to make sure that she can find my crypto, right? It's like that's kind of the weird thing, right? Like just that decision that I made to do what I did, you know, at that time, that there was no reason to do that, right? Like she said to me the next day, she's like, you know, you could have done 10 different other things that wouldn't have involved you breaking a bone, right? But like just the fact that like we can have that wake up call sometimes, that isn't painful, that isn't like your friend's situation where he's got to spend the next 60 years dealing with it? So I'm kind of curious, like, you know, what was your change, the time that you decided, you know, this is it for me. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to, you know, construct my own way. Was that like, you know, something that was a wake up call, or was that something that was like, I really fucked up and I got to deal with this for the rest of my life type of scenario?
No, I think it was a combination of just many things, of just like, I think it's really easy to just stay the same. I think that you ultimately, like, you know, hey, the marriage isn't, like, I'm not like loving it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And like, hey, I'm making money, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And I think at some point you just have to make a choice, and you're like, you know what, this, like, what would, I asked myself, like, what would it look like if I didn't? Like, what would that life look like? And I think that was kind of the seed of it. And then you start like feeling it, and you're like, okay, this is cool, like I can do with this, you know, and stuff like that. And then it kind of like snowballs, and then you just start, like, I always told myself, like, chase the feeling, like chase the feeling of like good. And like, if you chase the feeling, just keep chasing that feeling, like whether it's weight loss or whatever it is, or business, like, you know, the thing that's not talked about enough in like life and business is momentum. Like, momentum is a crazy thing, right? Because it's actually the opposite that we have to deal with. It's even worse. What if my life was just easy and there was no conflict, and I was making money and I was happy and I was fulfilled? Like, that's actually way more scarier than just living in despair and drinking every day. Like, because like, I don't know who that person is that would just be happy and not have to fight everything. You know, it's like, and so it's that kind of like wish or wash. But like, man, it just starts with the, like, little simple things, you know, just to like, hey, I'm gonna go to the, you know, they always tell the story in Atomic Habits, like the guy that lost like 150 pounds. He like went into the gym for like a minute the first day, and then he went in for like, you know, a minute 3, you know. And it's like, it's just that kind of like slow thing. And but I think what people do is they go, you know what, enough, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to change 65 things in my life. And it's like, how about you just pick one right now? Just one. You, like, you know, habits are an effort to break, dude. And we, like, let's break one at a time. Let's not try to break 6 at a time. You know, I'm going to quit smoking, drinking, watching Netflix, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, just one for like 7 days, 14 days, you know? And so, you know, tapping into your gifts. I think one of the cool things I make people do when they're kind of stuck in business is I make them read a book about art, and it really pisses them off. And then about 6 chapters in, they're like, oh, I get it. And that book is like big magic. And it's basically talking about your internal gifts and how if you don't use them, you lose them. And it's like kind of like understanding to like take a pause and like, okay, just let my gifts kind of move through me. And like, you have, and I'll just use you as an example, like the things that you can do to connect with people, a lot of people can't do. Like, it's super easy, like, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, and so, but like that, because it's so easy for us to do, we don't see it as a gift. And sometimes we run from the thing that we're the best at. I'm the poster child for that. Well, Austin, you're really, really good at this. I know, but I don't want to do that. Okay. And then now I just stop running. I just stop running from it. I run right to it. And then I support myself with people around me that love the things that I don't love. And then boom, we're off to the races.
You know, it's interesting because I'm going through a lot of like soul searching, like, you know, making the move. And I've been here for almost 20 years. And I'd say the last 10, you know, teaching university, I'm pretty good at what I do. And I don't put any effort into it. And like, since COVID, that was kind of when my effort didn't show, right? Like when I was there in the classroom with people, everyone thought that I worked really hard because it's just naturally easy for me to talk to people, right? It's naturally easy for me to connect with people. It's naturally easy for me to make it fun. But when we went online, I realized that like, it wasn't the content of my lessons that was good, because nothing changed. It was actually the delivery of them, right? It was that interaction in the class. And it was like, I'm also a bit of an asshole too. Like, I'll be honest, like if a kid pulled out their phone in my class, I'd be like, dude, put that away, get out of my classroom, right? Like, oh, well, like, well, why? I just checking my mail. sensei. And I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be doing pair work, and this girl that's sitting beside you, you know, she wants to learn something, and you're basically taking that opportunity away from her. So like, if you don't want to do it, get the hell out, right? And like, they hated me for the first 2 months, but after that, you know, the reviews were always good. It's like, you know, we communicated, we did nothing, we didn't have homework, right? Like they did a little bit of homework, then they came in, they talked to their partners. Like, all these other teachers are giving tests, like doing vocabulary quizzes. Like, every single student that walked out of my class that wanted to be there, because if they didn't, I sent them home, right? Every single student that came there, they liked it, right? But then COVID hit, and I did the exact same thing, and it was a complete and utter failure because I wasn't there. I wasn't the person to deliver it. They needed to deliver it themselves, right? Which was quite interesting. And I realized that, like, I just don't want to go back. I don't want to do that again, right? Like, I don't mind talking to people. I don't mind doing this. So now I'm grappling with this thing, right? Like you said, it's quite interesting because now I'm leaving. You know, we're actually packing up. I'm actually selling like most of the stuff, or getting rid of it, or giving it away, that I've accumulated over the last 20 years, which is crazy because it's like, some of it's worth money, right? And it's just like, no, I'm done, right? Like, so I'm not leaving myself with a chance to fail, because if I got to come back here and I got to buy a new car, it's going to really suck, right? Like, if I got to come back here and I got to spend all that money again, it's going to really suck. But what I'm kind of contemplating now, this is going to be a little bit nuts for somebody like you to believe, but I've been away for so long that I said to my missus, you know, because we're going to spend the first few months, you know, with my parents or near my parents, just for the grandkids, right? And for them, because they haven't had this time to connect. But like, what I'm contemplating most about is like, I actually just want to go back, and I actually just want to get a job. I don't care what kind of job it is, like, but like, I just kind of want to get a job, a part-time job, whether it's working at like a shop, whether it's working at a restaurant, whether it's working at a cafe, not a bar. I like working at bars, but like, I don't want to do it at night, for the simple reason that I've got this weird like ideology, like I've got this weird like idea in my head that like it would be fun, and I need a kick in the pants to get that out of there. Like, it's not going to be fun. It's going to suck, right? Like, there's going to be customers that come in that are complete and utter assholes, right? And it's like, you know, I need to appreciate where I came from to get to where I'm going, right? And I think that's going to be really important, right? Like, I do in a way have a little bit of an easy life, not because I'm rich, not because I made right decisions. I made really bad decisions, actually. I like, you know, Austin knows I made some really bad decisions last year. But like, it's weird because we live in this culture, especially in North America, where we can always go home and hang out with our parents, right? Like, we live in this culture where somebody's always there to $20 an hour. Yeah, I'm not working at McDonald's, man. I'm fat enough as it is. But like you know, like a craft burger shop or something, like that's probably a bad idea too, right? But like a craft beer place or something, like, you know, I have a friend who owns that, right? So, but like, I think that it's really important for people to understand that, like, you know, if you don't lean on other people, life really isn't that easy. And if you're leaning on other people, you might be squandering your potential that you have to actually do what you're good at doing. Does that make sense, right? Like, how many people do we see? You don't coach these people. You coach people who are actually probably successful in business. They're probably successful in life, but their personal lives are mostly, maybe, you know, sucky. Let's just pretend that's a word, right? Because they dedicate so much, because they don't know how to, this is my guess, it could be completely wrong, but because they don't know how to, compartmentalize different things, right? Like, you know, that client that you were talking about earlier, like, it's really too bad because, like, I'm actually the opposite, right? Like, I snap at my daughter, not the people I'm working with, right? When I should be snapping at the people I'm working with, right? But it's like, I want to know what the other side feels like, right? Like, I want to know what it's like to be completely and utterly screwed and build a business, right? Like, there's a lot of people out there who are, you know, close to my age, 40, 45 years old, that are like, oh, it's too late for me, right? Like, I can't quit my job. I can't, you know, lead my family down a road of having no income and no money. I mean, my backup plan, I don't know if you know this, but like, I spent 2 months living in the bush in New Zealand, spent another month living in Australia. I spent, you know, 2 years living in Hawaii, studying how to grow food. like the world's going to hell, and when it does, I'm gonna be the only one that knows how to grow shit. But until then, I'm gonna still figure out, what I want to do in the world, before that. So that was a little bit of a rant, but
I have something for you that we're working on. It might be right up your alley, especially by the time you get over here. We're working on a holistic retreat center in Tennessee, where we have private chefs and grow our own food and host events and stuff. So we could definitely bring you in to oversee the soil and all that stuff.
Man, I would love to design like that garden. Like I would love to just be a consultant and come there, like one month out of every quarter. Although I'm gonna press you for one thing, just
What's
one.
That?
I'm a tough negotiator. Now,
okay.
If we do that, I think that there needs to be a studio so that my missus can teach Pilates.
Well, no. We're gonna have all that. You're gonna have tiny homes, a big cabin. We're gonna be hosting yoga retreats, the whole thing. Yeah.
So just give my missus a teaching job. It'll be good. She can do it in English and Japanese.
I love it.
I like it too. Yeah, that's cool. Like Tennessee, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely. Like I'll come. I've consulted on projects here, but not so much. But all right. Well, I mean, what's on the bill for you? Oh, so we had Chase on a couple weeks ago. That was really good.
Yeah.
He came on and people really liked it. It was one of our better. Our better reviewed episodes. Everyone who watched it came and just said, like, dude, like this is awesome. Like, he was really great. So I just want to thank you for introducing us to Chase, because like that was really, really quite fascinating. So
no, it's amazing. Yeah, him and his group, and now he's a business partner. They really changed the way I viewed my relationship with my father and a lot of my personal stuff. So yeah, that work has been instrumental. And what he does, I'm actually trained as well, level 2. So it's been a big component of my coaching. Super, super exciting stuff. So awesome. Well, I appreciate the time as always, good sir.
I just like rambling on with you. Like it's so much fun, and I can't wait till we get to meet in person. It's going to be great.
I love it.
So thanks everyone for joining us. I'm not really sure what's happening. I think we might be back tomorrow. Corey's at NFT NYC. But yeah, we'll definitely be in and out and all around. And please like and share this out. Get in touch with Austin. The links are below if you need him or you want to pick his brain about something. Definitely tune into his podcasts that are on his website. You'll learn a lot of really cool shit. Thanks for joining us.
All right, everybody. Have a good day.